hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. That was my fault.
All right. Yeah.
Sorry, but the stress, the virtual stress. Well, thank you for hopping on. I was really excited to talk to you, and thank you for everybody that's joining us. Thank you. So today, I'm talking with Devin Anderson. He is the African American Roundtable Membership and Coalition Manager, and Devin works I think amongst other things, but you work to coordinate the Liberate Mke campaign. An African American Roundtable, or ART, is an assembly of partners led by and serving Milwaukee's Black community. And I kind of just want to start, Devin, with talking about ART, but specifically about the Liberate Mke campaign, like where it was, where it is, and like where it's going. So it was launched 3 years ago, the Liberate Mke campaign. What does the campaign aim to do, and how does it do that?
Yeah, thank you so much. Super excited to be here. And so, yeah, the Liberate Mke campaign was launched in 2019 with an ask that we move money away from police and we move money back into community programs. And when we launched in 2019, if you think about 2019, if we take a time lapse, a lot of things were radically different than they are now. Just our conditions and our understandings. Like, right, we weren't in a pandemic. Like, right, like pandemic, when I took this job in 2019, pandemic, I'm like, I don't even know what that word means, probably. Right? So we're not in a pandemic. Um, National demands to defund the police are not on the table, although like wonderful organizers and abolitionist organizers have been around for a long time and leading wonderful campaigns to close new jails, to not build new jails, to fund care not cops. Like all of those things were like right, but they weren't mainstream. And so when we launched our campaign in 2019, part of it was to like interject that actually the way we're living right now, the way things are, they don't have to be. So when we asked for $25 million divestment from police and investment into community programs, what we're asking for is that actually that we recognize that spending 46% of a budget on police isn't sustainable and it's actually not what our communities want. And so one of the things we did in 2019 is we talked to people and surveyed people. And like this question is still a guiding question for the campaign today. Like, if you had one thing that you would like to see more funding go to in your community, what would it be? Like, that's the question. That simple question, we've still been asking that question. And what we hear is we hear public health, we hear housing, we hear more investment to our young people. One of the things, like one of the most striking stories and things I like remember is a grandma was like, I just need something for my grandson to do. Like, what is it? Like, how can we ensure that my grandson has a resource and can do some of the things he wants to do? And so, like, that's been like really the central core of what we're trying to do is like clearly name that we have to be moving past policing. We have to be help meeting people's needs. And obviously with the pandemic, with George Floyd, with Breonna Taylor, with the national demand to defund the police, with campaigns like sparking all across the country, like we wanted to obviously like to continue our call and actually like to expand our political vision and say actually like the pace of we need to be defunding the police is much quicker. Because like right, one of the things like we said is as long as police exist, they'll kill Black people. Like, right, when we talk about violence in our communities, we also have to acknowledge police violence in our communities and the ways police harm and kill some of our residents. And so the campaign is like, is something that we're like extraordinarily proud of here, and is something that like 3 years ago we couldn't expected it to take the course it has, but something like we're going to continue to push on because like the need is still there. Police are still receiving over about $300 million every year in the city of Milwaukee.
You published published a report like with all of the survey results from 2019 and like the demands that you like touched on, but there's this disconnect, right? Like the needs from the community, which you gather through survey results, and services that flow from those needs, and the difference between that and the services that our community members currently receive. So the Liberate Mke report and the Office of Violence Prevention's Blueprint for Peace highlights, I think, these really deep needs that we have that aren't being addressed. Where is that disconnect happening? The services and the services that flow from the needs that our community has and what they're receiving now. Like, where is that disconnect?
Yeah, I think I'll answer the question and maybe like an around the bush way, but bear with me. I think one of the things you can look across the country is traditionally anytime the police ask for more money, they get more money, right? Like I was just looking at something today and it talked about like police budgets after they, like a police killing, after they kill somebody. And from 50 years ago to now, after they kill somebody, police budgets go up. And if we look over the course of history, police budgets just kept going up. And as the police budgets have continued to go up, like, right, we've had to make a lot of other cuts. Like, right, like that's just the reality. We had to make other cuts and we had to, we had to make cuts and we had to make decisions. And traditionally those decisions have always been, we have to maintain or expand policing. And then we have to cut other services. We have to cut libraries. We have to cut public health. We have to cut housing. We have to cut the social safety net. And we've made those choices for now, like a couple generations, like, right, austerity budgets, like, right, that's what folks often talk about. And so with time, like the disconnect of what the needs people have and what they're giving have only increased because we've continued on the path of austerity. We've continued on the path of like, and it's like sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy in some ways, that they're like, well, crime is up and so we have to continue to fund more police at the expense of these other things. And what we want to interject in the conversation is actually an alternative vision, a different vision of what can be. We want to interject and say, actually, we believe that if you meet folks' needs, if you care for folks consistently, if you provide housing, if you provide food, access, if you provide all the material needs that people have, the conditions and crime and harm on the ground will be different. Like that's our point of view. And I'll say is, right, the police and policing have got to have the opportunity to test their theory for a long time, for generations now. And we want to interject and say, like, this is our theory, this is our vision, and give us an opportunity to build that vision.
The police budget for the city of Milwaukee for 2022 was around $280 million, which is about 4% of our total budget. And for, like in the current moment, Liberate Mke, where it's at, there's like 3 key demands on your website, and they're based around the American Rescue Plan Act and funds from the act not trickling down into the police department. But there's also one of the demands was creating this participatory budgeting trust that would allow residents from every automatic district to have basically a say in decision-making process of public dollars, right? So could you touch on like what does a participatory budget process look like, and just why it's a necessary framework, and I guess what it guides your work. So why is it so essential to your work?
Yeah, thanks for the question. First, I'll just say the American Rescue Act Plan, I'll just give like a brief synopsis. So the American Rescue Act Plan was the stimulus bill that was passed sort of when Biden took office in 2021. And I think part of it, I think they sent us like a check. I think on the campaign, they said it was going to be $2,000. I think it was only $1,200, I believe, if I got that right, something like that. And And then from there, they also provided a lot of resources to sustain state and local governments who were experiencing, like, right, just not the amount of revenue they generated because of a pandemic. And Milwaukee was going to get got close to $400 million. And we wanted to make a demand that actually, like, none of this money needs to go to police. And we wanted to, and like, that's been sort of a national demand across the country, because a lot of people have recognized, like, police already get 40+% of budgets across the country. In Milwaukee, we talked about what they get, about 44-45%. And we don't believe they need any more. And instead, we wanted to put a vision for participatory budgeting, naming that we, the residents, that everyday people, the legend that the ancestor Ella Baker always talks about everyday people, but everyday people deserve to have decision-making power, direct decision-making power over public resources. And participatory budgeting is a form of direct democracy, where we get to decide, we get to create proposals, ideas that we would like to see funded. We get to, proposals, ideas that we like to get funded, and then people, community members vote on it, not the Common Council, which currently in Milwaukee is down 4 people, but the people who live in the communities. And so we really want to fight for that, to assert and insert that, like, actually these are our public dollars and we deserve to have direct decision-making power over these public dollars.
And this is all in the context of, I guess, budget season, right? Like, this Milwaukee and the county will have budgets that to be finalized in these upcoming months, right? And I think it's an interesting framework, and I guess looking forward into the rest of 2022 and maybe into 2023, what's going to be the focus of the Liberate Mke campaign?
Yeah, thank you. I think, like, for us, like, when I started this job close to 3.5 years ago, and before that, when Marquesa was leading the work, our focus has always been on community. How can we ensure that more people in our communities have their needs met? That we can make material changes in people's lives? That we can fight, organize, that people have more agency, more control over their communities. And so that's not going to change, like, right? We're going to continue to fight for investment into communities, because that's what the people said and that's what they want. I was talking to folks just the other day, talked about there needs to be more job training. There needs to be more housing, so more folks can have secure housing. There needs to be more resources into mental health. So these are the needs, the wants, right, of everyday people. And we're going to keep lifting those to the sky. And so that's not going to change. And we're going to continue to talk about the harms of the system of policing. We're going to oppose, and we're going to talk about, like, why actually we don't need to be investing more money on police or incarceration. Why actually, like, young people don't deserve to be in cages, and that actually they should be, we should be funding their futures. We should be making them material investments into helping them develop into whatever person they want to be. And so that for us has, like, always been central and core to it. And we've recognized, like, right, one of the reasons we talk and continue to talk about police is because they stand in the way, right? They stand in the way of people having their needs met. Right? We can think about that both in, like, a very tangible sense, in the ways in which police harass and harm and beat, kill people. But we also can think about it. Anytime you're spending 46% of a budget, anytime a police force is getting $300 million a year, that's $300 million that we're not investing into the libraries. That's $300 million we're not investing into roads. That's $300 million we're not investing into housing people. That's $200 million we're not investing in making sure folks have food access. Like, that's what's that's what's on the line. And we want to be able to have the conversations with people, and recognize and get folks to see the connection. Actually, what's standing in the way of some of the things you want are the police. And we haven't even talked about, the ways in which their pension costs are exorbitant, right? The mayor's going to talk about, by the way, tomorrow's the first budget hearing, the mayor's budget hearing. Go to our page. We register, log in, sign up if you want to like follow budget stuff. And he's going to talk tomorrow. Like, I don't know exactly what he's going to say, but he's going to say Milwaukee's in a tough financial position. That's like, right. That's what they've been saying for the last 4 years. Milwaukee's in a tough financial position. We don't have enough revenue to pay our bills, right? But he's not going to highlight or mention the fact that the reason Milwaukee's in that position is because of its over-reliance on policing. So the Milwaukee's pension costs are going up. And the main driver, you can go to Journal Sentinel. We also wrote a wonderful pension report. Go to our website, artmke.org. Check out our pension report that we released last year that highlighted that the police are the main driver of Milwaukee's pension costs. And so we have to name and think about and consider the $300 million a year they receive in terms of their budget. We also have to name and think about and consider how their pensions are also helping to bankrupt the city. And that's the cost of policing. And so when we consider the cost of policing, we have to consider that the cost of policing is all of the costs associated with policing and how all of that money could be spent elsewhere, doing something else. Moving us closer to freedom dreams, moving us closer to liberation, moving us closer to everybody having their material needs met. But instead, it's enforcing this violent system.
Yeah, the Liberate Mke report, the campaign report, and other local reporting that's been done highlights the proportion that the city of Milwaukee spends on its police budget in comparison to other cities, like that are demographics, but also like neighboring cities like Chicago, Minneapolis, and Philadelphia. They don't spend nearly as much in terms of their proportion on their city budget. And you look at the disparities also in terms of how much something like neighborhood services or library are receiving, and the proportion is just the contrast is enormous. And I want to close up by really just kind of opening it up to you. If there's anything else that you want people to know about African American Roundtable or Liberate Mke Campaign, and just close it that way.
Yeah, first I want to again thank you for creating space to chat about it. Always down to talk. But one of the things I want to say is close this out with is that yes, that we talk about police and policing. That's like I said that earlier. We're going to continue to talk about that. But we also care deeply and we're deeply invested in what are the things that people want to see. And we want to help and organize with folks to see that those some of their wants come true. Because it's not just about what Devin wants, right? It isn't. I wish it was sometimes, but it isn't. It's not about me. But it's about how can we come together and as a community and lay out visions. What are the visions for the communities we want to build? What are the things we want to see? And that's one of the things we continue to spend time doing, talking to people, residents on the northwest side of Milwaukee where our office is, and listening to them. Listening to the ways in which they've talked about how they felt like they've been forgotten about and divested from. And we want to give a voice to those folks. And we want to welcome more people in to the work, right? I always say if we had enough people to win, we would have won already, right? We would have won all the things we wanted. But our movements need more people. And we want to invite people to join us, to struggle with us, to be a part of organization, be a part of fighting for community investment, be a part of creating new visions, alternative visions for what Milwaukee can look like. And we do that in multiple ways. We continue to have political education sessions, but we also invite folks we have phone banks, we have canvases as well, and trainings just to continue to build community and chat with folks around what it is, what is the vision we're working to. And we're super proud of that. This year I'll close, this year we put up a mural. We had young people and they asked other young people, what does a liberated Milwaukee look like? And from that, they created a wonderful Vision to Life mural that we're proud of, and that every day, if you want to, you can drive by and see. And what that represents, what that beautiful mural represents, is alternative visions, different visions of what can be, how we can hold space together, and what we can build. And for me, that's like the inspiring part. Like, yes, we want to take money away from police, and we want to tear that down. But our vision doesn't stop there, and I don't want anybody who's listening or anybody who follows the work or anybody to think that's where our vision ends. Our vision's always about the building. What can we build? What do you want to see built? Those are the questions we lead with, because we know it's not enough. One of my comrades always, I love that line. It's not enough to just talk about what you want to tear down, but what do you want to build? And we're trying to get to work on building new visions of what Milwaukee can be. So thank you.
Thank you so much for coming into this space with me and agreeing to do it. And I was so excited to talk with you and learn more about the vision and like the process. And I know it's hard to be an organizer in the day-to-day life of an organizer. So thank you for all that you do. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye.